Welcome to another installment of a P900 camera repair. This one was sent to me from Europe, and I've actually put the battery in and an SD card to actually test. It said that the lens drive mechanism had jammed and was making a noise. Just by the looks of it, it doesn't look in bad condition at all. And as you can see, the lens is partly driven out. Came with the lens cap, and the lens looks in good condition, and it doesn't look as if there's any damage externally. But get a load of this. Now, when I switch this on, I have switched it on once. I don't want to actually keep switching it on until I strip the thing down. There's quite a bit of dirt inside here. That's only superficial, and clean that up. Now, when I switch this on, get the screen so you can see it. And it's asking for the date and time. I'll just say no. And listen to this. Now I've just disconnected the battery there. That's actually quite loud. I have never experienced one that loud before. So obviously what I'm going to do is I'm going to strip this down. I wish people would take these straps off before they send it to me, because it really just gets in the way. So I'm going to have to take the strap off. But before I do that, on previous videos, I've gone through some screws and how you dismantle it. But I'm just going to basically go through this again now, and as simply as I can. So to start with, the screws that you need to take out are two mounting brackets on the top. Actually, there's a screw missing from here, so I'm wondering if anybody's been in here before. You take that screw out. You don't really need to take this screw out, even though it's partially out. These two screws here, which are missing. There's one inside the HDMI and charging slot here. They're missing on this side. There's two on this side. There's one missing there. And next you take out the two screws which are inside the screen. And then the last two are inside the flash unit. And I'm sure we can see that. Yep, we can see here's one and there's the other one. Now, once all the screws are out, you may be able to see that little slot there. And what you do is you want to get a nice little flat blade, and you actually put that into the slot there, and then you lift up, and then you feel a little click, and then you can put it down. And see, the strap's getting in the way now. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pause this for a little while, and then I'm going to actually take this off, all the screws out, and before I pop it, I'll actually let you see how it does pop. So with that, I'll just pause it here for a second. Right, all the screws are out. There's 12 of them in total, just if you'd like to count. So now I'm ready to just pop this open, like so. And you've got the nice little gap there down here. Now, bearing in mind, when you lift this, you might want to have the keyboard beside you, because as you lift this, you've got two cables under here which are still connected into the edge connectors. One's for the screen and one's for the buttons. So by just moving this off carefully, I can get it to pop up slightly, and then I can actually turn it around 180 degrees and then lift, and you'll be able to see where the two cables are connected, here and here. And there's a grey for the keyboard. I'm going to pop that one up. That gives me a little bit more play now to get the screen out. And then there's a brown tab on the inside, which I'm going to lift and then pull out. So we know the screen's good. I'm just going to put that to one side for safekeeping. Now, whilst you're here, around this side, there's a very small fine plastic finishing tab. It might be, that's what it looks like. Might be prudent to actually keep that safe as well, because we're going to need that later on. And when you're manipulating all this, you might easily lose it or forget that you had it left in there. So I suspect there's something wrong with the drive mechanism. This is the gearbox under here, which is on, actually this video is back to front, so it's the left hand side on the camera. So what to do next? Right, so to get the silver plate off, as you can see, you might have cables in the way. So this is the cable which supplies the wireless system for the camera. So we're going to pop that tiny little cable up first, and then just remove that cable. This cable which runs along here is the side zoom function, and we're just going to pop that one up and gently remove the cable. And sometimes when you pull this back, if you do it very, very gently, you may find that it coils up, and it's not too much of an issue. You just need to get it all back, unwind it. So that's that cable. The cable for the small screen video needs to be removed. That's for the viewfinder rather, because the plate needs to come away. And that comes out. Yep. Now, this cable here, which is a bit tricky, this is for the top function board. That needs to come out because there is a screw underneath there, and plus the fact you have there's a leg which runs underneath that, which is part of the silver board. So we'll unpop that. This cable can be a bit tricky to get back in, but yep. Let me get my other pair of tweezers there, get a bit more grip onto that, and she should come out there. And there we are. Now, so with that, we have some screws. It's a bit bright there. Let me turn that other light off a minute. See if that works a bit better. Might be a bit better there. Is it focusing in? It's not very. It's supposed to be an HD camera. This, I've got it set to 720 HDMI, whatever. But yeah. So there are. This little PCB has to be removed from the plate. There's a tiny little screw down there. It's only one of that type, so it's easily remembered what it is. So you take that one off, and the two shoulder bolts here as well. I call them shoulder bolts because they're actually sat either side of the viewfinder. So take those off, and then there's a screw down here which is going into the plastic, and there's a screw here. Remove that one. Obviously the little screw under that cable needs to be removed, and two outer screws here and here, and then the last screw is here. Now bear in mind that when you go to take this plate off, there is a pad underneath this one, and she is, get a little nice plastic, and it doesn't take much force just to lift that plate up. Then you have to manipulate it out in a way, and make note of where these sit back in. They have to sit inside the plastic. So am I getting the light there? The plastic connection there and there. When the foot sits down, there's a tiny little pit which goes through the hole beside the screw. And also this little down foot here has to sit behind the mounting mechanism. So I'm going to go ahead and get the screws out, and I'll show you how I do manipulate it out of the camera back. Okay, so now with all the screws out and I got them safely stored on my magnets, I usually used to put them in a pot, but now bear in mind, make a note of where this cable for the side zoom actually comes through on the edge of this camera. That's where it comes through, runs along the tape, and then the rest of it actually sits down and loops inside there. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to lift the plate very gently on this side, and she just gives that little pop. And actually, I did forget to remove one screw in my haste, so I went around and I had the light on, but there we go. So all the screws are out, and before you remove this plate, there is this tiny bit of foil here, grounding foil. Just gently push that back, because that will need to go back into situ when you put the plate back in. Now, the first thing I would do is I would maneuver this PCB so she's slotting in here and then at the front. So I would gently lift it and then move it slightly sideways there. And then that can easily lift up. And once you've got that unpopped, you can just gently maneuver this up slightly. And don't forget the two shoulders can come forward then, and then she slides out. Now the SSD part of this plate will actually come with it. You don't need to take that off. Leave it in situ. Okay, so that's your wireless part of it. And then that plate can go in for safekeeping. And here we are. So here's the gearbox now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take a look at the gearbox to see if it is broken, or let's see what state the gearbox is in real time. 3 screws. Again, you don't want these screws to be mixed up with any others. Keep these 3 screws separate. What I tend to do is when I strip further, I get another magnet and I store them on there. So just get another magnet, and here's a nice one covered in. There we are. Get another magnet there. Just the 3 screws for this gearbox. And she pops up. She popped up. Why would she pop up now? So that's the cap for the gearbox. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off the gears. Take off this middle drive one first. I'm going to have a look at this one. That looks intact. Then I'm going to take off the larger one here. Let's scoop that one out if I can. Let's have a look at it. I can see, I'll probably be able to see this with my eyes, I think. That looks in good condition, yeah. There's something inside that one, he says. Looks like a bit of plastic, I think. Is it? Yeah, it's a bit of plastic there on my finger. So I think this one has had a broken gearbox. Let's hope it's not the... unless somebody's already replaced these gears for a drive mechanism and it's jammed. Let's have a look at this one, because this gear... And there we are. Now, this one has broken. Let's see if you can see that. If I hold it up against a light surface, such as like this, you might be able to see that there's a gear missing. Can you? No, no. Let's have a look there. Can you see that? Just a slight deformation there. You might be able to see that on the camera there. Let's see if I can get that focused in. So the whole mechanism was jammed. Can I get you to see it's at the 12 o'clock position? There, you could just see that slight deformation there. There's actually one tooth broken, and the witnesses, that tiny little speck there was jammed in here. So what I need to do is now I need to actually get this mechanism to come down. If I can wind it down to actually see if there's any more bits of plastic in there. I can't see any at the moment. So I'm just going to actually see if I can get it to come out. See how the drive feels. Doesn't feel bad at all. That feels quite nice. I don't want to get to the extreme because she will lock in a bit. Yeah, like so. So I just need to actually rotate it back just slightly. So she'll go in. Looks like there's a mark down there. Is that just a bit of, yeah, just a bit of dirt or something. But that feels okay. So in this position, if I just take a look at the gears inside, because the gear inside is not damaged, that's okay. Right. So what I need to do is I need to get a new gear for this gearbox. And I shall go and retrieve one from my bits and pieces, and I'll be back. Okay, so I have retrieved the spare part. Uh, this part here, it's all good. And as you'll see down here, I've got quite a few. I don't know why I keep the old ones, but these gears are all broken. I can't use all these. These are all different gears from the gearbox that I've had from previous cameras that well, some of them anyway. I just keep them for posterity, really. There's no real reason to keep them as such. So anyway, just another word of caution. This retaining plate here for what we call the worm drive, which is the initial drive for the motor, which is spinning this white gear, that plate has to be nice and perpendicular across. What I've seen with these before is that what's actually happened is when there's been force put on the lens mechanism, because it's a direct drive mechanism, it tends to actually, it can actually turn the gears and push this plate out. And when that happens, there's a little tiny opto flag here which spins on the motor shaft, and there's two optics. There's one on the left and one underneath, and this flag tends to jam against the body of the sensor. So if that's the sensor window, the flag is going through it, say, and it can actually hit here or chafe off it and cause dust and block the sensor, either one or two of them. So this will need to be stripped out and cleaned. And if I do find that, I tend to do that, but this one doesn't look too bad. It looks quite perpendicular there, that silver plate, and it's just sort of clipped in really, and it pivots the end of the worm gear drive. So, but I do actually just give this a little tab with a brush and make sure it's clear. Blowout, but that's not restricting in any way. So to put the gearbox back in, the first gear that goes back in is the one that's broken. So that'll sit in the middle, and then the last drive goes in as such, and then the last one pops upside down inside, and there we are. That's the gearbox renewed, or the new gear in. Put the plate on, make sure the cable's out of the way, and that should just tie down nicely. And what I can do is before I put the back plate back on, I can actually give it a test. Now I put the retaining plate back on there because if you don't have that retaining plate on when you power it up, it'll spin the gears out, and we don't want that. That's in there. But what's going to happen is, I know what's going to happen now is when I put the battery back in there, it's going to ask for the date and time, so I won't be able to drive it. Perhaps I should have said yes, so the internal battery should have stored the date and time, but we'll give it a try. We'll see. But I don't have to connect everything up per se. That goes into the middle. Right, so that's the gearbox screwed back in. But because we're out at this point here, what will happen is if the gearbox is good, she should home herself when the battery's put in and powered up. Okay, so what I need to do is I need to connect the viewfinder first. Let's just put that one in. This is going to have to come out again when I put the silver plate on. That's pretty much in there. I'm happy with that. And then connect up the cable here, which is for the top keyboard buttons. This can be a bit tricky because she has to go in at a slight angle. See if I can do this without my magnifying glass. Nearly, he said. Nearly, is that it? No, not quite. That's pretty much there, he says. Just get that end slightly in. That's it. Yep. Right, get the battery. Now let's see if she will actually home. So we can get that on camera. Push that in. Close the door. And power up. Can I power that up? It's going to ask for the date and time. Yes, it is. So all I need to do is power it off again. Yes, powered up. Oh, you can hear that. Did make a bit of a click, didn't it? Let's have a look. I'm not sure if you heard that. It did give a little click. Now, in driving it in and out, so let's just connect the screen up again without. I'm going to need my magnifying glass. Just a second. I'm going to need that, I'm sure. Let's get that there. Oh dear. Because I need to see what it is I'm doing. Let's get that one there. It's a bit dusty, isn't it? And get those connectors on. That is okay. That one. I think that needs to be in a little bit more, if I may say. Let's have a look at that. Yeah. That should be okay. It's a lot harder to get this in once the silver screen's in, but she will go. And what I tend to do with this one is I always put the keyboard one in first. And so then it's a bit tricky, a bit fiddly to get this in correctly. There we are. Once you have it in, hold it steady, close the clamp, and then just bring this one back slightly so you have enough room then to get the screen in. says. I need a bit more light there somehow. Can I get some more light on this? That might be better, he says. Now this cable, I've had some of these where these cables have broken on the end because they're always at a tight angle when they're flat. They don't take a lot to actually become broken. So I just treat this one gently. I think that's in, and then close that down. Make sure that that's okay. That does look okay. And then what I do is to lay it flat like so. Get it into situ. Now I will shut it down, shut it through completely. And the reason why I do that is if you don't finally clip it, the IR sensor becomes invoked and the screen won't power on. So let's see what she says now. And it says no, and I will select, it's asking for the time. It's in a different language, but there you go. And there we are. So now if I go to auto, I've got now I can see the pictures coming on. So I'll put it to the moon. Oh, this is in a different, it's in a different language. Let's see if I can remember. Let's go to scene. And let's go for moon. Man, whatever that is. And then when you press OK, it should zoom out to the 83 times zoom. And let's see. So press OK. It's a little bit ropey there. And if I bring it back in, nope, there you go. And it says, okay, switch camera off. So now there may be a remnant still inside this camera somewhere. So what I'm going to have to do, unless it's made in another gear, when you make something stronger, it becomes weaker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this again, get the gearbox off, and then retract the zoom mechanism and see if it actually functions. I'm going to pause it here. I'll get it back to the position where we were before. So here I am back again. The gearbox is now open. I'm just going to remove the gears just to make sure we've not got anything awry. I'll take that out and I will look. Let's get this one out. That's there. Take the center one out. This should still be okay. Yes. Yes. And let's get the thing out. See if there's anything. There's nothing else in there. So what I'm doing now is I've tried switching it on, and she's spinning. She should stop in a minute. There we go. And that's probably saying lens error now. Well, she's powered off. But that doesn't sound too bad. I'm just going to take that off. Just going to have a look and see it. This one, it should be okay. I don't think there's anything untoward with this. No, that is good. Have a look inside again. Make sure that the flags are in the center, which they are. Yes. There's nothing wrong with that plate at all. Not that I can see. No. Switch it on again. I should be able to hear that. That's the motor going. Okay, right. So I'm going to drive this out myself again. See what's wrong, if anything. Yeah, it feels. Then we need to go do the extra bit. And she should fall under her own weight. If I can show you that. Yeah, she will. That feels. It doesn't feel that bad at all. Yeah, that's nicely sliding in and out. So once I get there, yeah, she's going in nicely. You don't really want to lubricate. These should run dry, these races inside. You don't really want to put anything on them. I'm just having a look to see if there's any remnant anywhere that I missed. Oops, it's asking me if I want to stay here. Yes. Can't see anything in there. Let's get another torch. Let's have a look in here. Oops, there we go. Nope, it looks fine. Absolutely fine. Right, so again, with this, it's a case of perhaps putting it back in again. Otherwise, I'm going to have to strip the whole mechanism down and find out where it's jamming. But that's fine. Can't feel anything in there. Nope. Okay. Put the gears back in. That's absolutely fine. That fella. All the way down. Ah, now. This is something to watch out for. Sometimes the actual pin comes out. So I'm wondering that mechanism has just started to become loose, but that should sit back in situ, he says. I'll press it down. Don't want that to, we'll just wait for that to time out. Okay, we'll get that in. Like so. That's strange, but there you go. What can you do? And then that last gear goes in. So that's how it sits, and then the plate can only go one way around. That's in there. That sounds a bit better now. No, maybe that's I think I was pressing down too tight on the centerpiece there. So maybe putting extra stress on the gearbox. So we'll just get the gearbox cover on. Right. And the last. Okay. And we'll power on. Make sure that's closed. Okay. That sounds a bit better. That clicking, I don't like that clicking noise. I do not like that at all. It shouldn't click. So I think there is something in there. So what we're going to have to do now is we're going to have to strip this whole thing down, which means taking this unit off, and it's not for the faint-hearted, I must admit. And I'm going to have to take the top assembly off of the zoom mechanism, retract it out, take the top off, strip down all the individual parts, because I think there's erroneous parts stuck inside here now. But I know the gearbox is good, but I don't like that clicking noise. It comes out okay, and if you listen, that click, I'm not sure that's right. Although she may have. Let's see if we can. Let's see what the synopsis is when I get the screen back on. Okay, so I've got the camera screen back on. Switch on. I'm awfully sorry. I had this extra light there so I could see what I was doing. So drive it out. There we are. And switch off. And back on. And we can see that there's no error messages on here. So you gotta bring it back with the zoom. It says that's forward, come back. Slight clicky. Switch off. Switch on. Drive out. Well, there is a slight one click down at the bottom, but that could be with the whole lens mechanism. She's not jamming now. The gearbox is all good, and some of these do click. I suppose when I have known some to click. But the only drive mechanism you've got is what's inside the gearbox here. So I think that should be good to go, if I'm honest. And let's get it back onto the moon scene. Okay, bring it back. Okay, okay, and then off. Say okay. Okay, off. There we are, back on. Okay, drive it in. Say okay again. And then off. There, I think that's, let's get the cover back on for safekeeping. Now all I have to do is connect back the silver plates, get all the cables back in and the screws. I've got new screws or replacement screws I can put in for the customer for his to make sure everything's in and tightened down. I'll give it a go clean and I shall ship it back tomorrow. Okay, happy days. Another P900 saved. And thanks very much for watching. And yeah, there we go. Another P900 saved. Excellent. If you have a camera that you need me to look at, I've got all parts necessary and lots of broken ones too. There we go. Um, it is the Achilles heel of this camera, and because there's no external damage on here, it may have had some force put onto it, which would have caused this gear to break. And obviously, I did find the one small remnant of it that had come out, and it was one of the smaller, finer gears that had gone on the outer ring on this one. Not this particular one. Yeah, you'd easily miss it, to be honest. Um, yeah, so it's the inside one which breaks, but occasionally you do get them which, you know, such as this one. It's missing half of its teeth on one, well, a third of its teeth on one side on the outer ring. And yeah, so with that, I shall leave it there. Like I say, if you've got a P900 that needs to be looked at, yeah, please see my service repair on eBay. Thank you very much for watching. And sorry it took so long, but you know, this is what happens when you have to put these things back together again, and you know, after stripping it down so far. With that, I shall leave it there. I hope it made it quite clear which screws you do need to remove to get at that gearbox. So I hope that has helped somebody, and I appreciate all the feedback I have had for some of my videos, and it does inspire me to continue. And I just thought I'd make another one because I hadn't made one for quite a while, and there we are. So with that, I shall, rather than start waffling on, I shall leave it there. So thanks very much for watching. Please do like and subscribe, as everybody usually says. Bye now.